Hey everyone, I am here joined by Larry Larsen from Frontier Financial Services. He is the home of the loan arrangers in Arizona, and he is a successful business owner, entrepreneur, networking expert, and we are super excited to have Larry here with us today. Larry, thank you for being with us.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we're going to just jump right into it. So, what experiences or influences in your life have shaped your values as a business owner?
Oh, that's a good question. As a business owner, what experiences? I started out in business. I was a ski bum for the most part. All I did was hospitality. And one of the things that I've always been involved in is call center management. And it started off as fundraising, and then I moved into design and development of policies and procedures for the call center industry. I worked for about 20 years as the design and development firm for a very large network of independently owned call centers. And it gave me a lot of information, but I think that my true business was really sitting across the table from my dad. I mean, he was a troubleshooter in the aluminum industry, and I listened to his stories as a kid growing up, and I got a lot of good mentoring from him. I will say that in the training of multiple customer service, customer CSRs, customer service representatives, I trained a lot. In my biggest year, I put out 1,100 W-2 forms. I always found that hospitality, anytime somebody had spent time as a server or a counter person, they always had to have their best foot forward. And so they became naturally good at just selling themselves. And I found that those were the things that made the difference. And I was in the hospitality industry as a ski bum for all the way up until I was 28 years of age.
That's awesome. You said your father was an early mentor for you. What was some of that early advice that your dad was showing you the ropes and teaching you?
That's interesting. I'm not sure I could specifically come up with pieces of advice, but my dad ended up retiring at 55 and bought a cattle ranch in Wyoming.
Oh wow.
One of the things that I learned is that he sailed a single-handed sailor after he lost the ranch. One of the things that he said that's always stuck with me in life is sailing is the destination.
Mm.
And it's not where you're going, it's the act of what you're doing. And so it's always about focusing on the journey as opposed to where it is you're going to ultimately end up because of what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you do, people say to me, Larry, when are you going to retire? And I look at them and I say to them, I said, I think I have been my whole life, because if you truly enjoy what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's good work if you can find it. Right now, I'm basically the public relations person for our firm. My wife is the broker, so I don't move paper. I just go out and network and create commerce for other businesses.
That's awesome. That speaks deeply to me personally because I was a sea captain. I went to sea for 12 years as a U.S. merchant sailor for
Oh,
and
there you
retired.
go.
Yeah, retired as a captain. So sailing is very near and dear to my heart, and I understand exactly what your dad was saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he ultimately ended up losing the boat about 1,000 miles due west of Coos Bay, Oregon. They sent a C-130 Hercules out of
Oh man.
Kodiak to find him, and the boat flipped over twice in a storm out there, and he lost his rudder, and it broke the cabin, and he was taken on water. And yeah, so he was actually on the Discovery Channel as Coast Guard back in the day when they had the Coast Guard Rescue 911. He was one of the episodes. My dad's an interesting guy. He's no longer with us, but I can just say that I learned a lot from him. Him and I fished all the time. That's what we did.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question for you. What does success look like to you, both personally and professionally?
Wow. I'm going to say, and I've said it before, just the having smoothness in your operations is what I feel is success. Good harmony within the team. When you're team building and building things like that, to me, dollars is a way of keeping score. But I don't look at just because you make a lot of money that is being successful. I also look at how much it took on you as a person to make that money. So success to me is just ease of application. So therefore, I was always involved in the creation of policies and procedures, departmental manuals, making sure that everybody had an organized format to operate from. And when they did that, it was successful. I had a good day. Mitigating problems is, to me, is an ideal situation.
That's I love that. I love that answer because it is not all money is the same, right? Like there's some money that's
Right.
just is just either it's got too much
Well,
ink on it or it's just it takes too much of a toll on you personally to get it.
yeah, today, I mean, when you say success in business, for me today, I look at what I do to help other people create connections in commerce, and all boats rise on the incoming tide. And so, if you are helping other people lift up, you're going to lift up as well. The laws of reciprocity would suggest that if you help others succeed, you will as well. And you don't have to keep score, it just happens. And so, have that mindset as to what can you do for other people to help them succeed in what they're trying to accomplish. And I have systems for doing that. I actually have training programs and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's called the Dream Program, right?
Yeah, the dream training is something that morphed out of a gentleman out of Denver back in 2014, probably 2013. I met him. I was just introduced, kind of getting into networking at that time. It was new to me. And I was going to all the chamber meetings and going to all the different mixers and the luncheons and all the stuff. And I really wasn't having the success that I needed. And so he had a program called Extreme Relationship Management. It's Tony Rayburn out of Denver. And when I met him, I became the mayor of Phoenix. I gave away 200 copies of his ranking software. Literally, the guy's a genius. And he created a software that basically ranked everybody you met on the probability of them being the best referral resource you've ever had based on a 2-minute conversation. So it was a really strong thing. The problem we had was adoption. It was clunky. It was software, and he wanted to charge for it. But we did a pilot with 200 copies. I gave them away, and I did the programming classes for the software. You program it uniquely to your situation. And so that's where it ultimately kind of didn't work out. So around 2016, 17, he came to me and said, I'm just going to go ahead and put a stop to it. But people kept coming to the programming class, even though there wasn't any software. I said, wow, there's some hunger here. So I redesigned it into the Dream. And the Dream stands for Developing Referrals and Elevating A-Team Mastery. And I simplified it by making it into the 5-star system, just like you would for Google reviews or Yelp or TripAdvisor. You rank a hotel based on the 5-star system. Well, you rank the probability of a introduction onto whether or not this is somebody I should spend time, money, and effort, because you can't have coffee with everybody. And you really do need to recognize the people that have the same beliefs that you have and in business. And if you find those right out of the gate, and if you nurture them in the evolution of a relationship, you typically will succeed later on in the relationship.
That's super powerful. I love that. Is there any way they can give like a quick high level of like how you do the ranking? Like, is there any kind of questionnaire? Because it's supposed to happen in like 2 minutes.
Well, okay. Thank you for asking that question. It's really important. The Dream is for professionals who network. You could develop what we call A-Team referral resources. And that could be whatever you believe a good referral resource. In Frontier Financial of Arizona, for instance, a good referral resource is somebody who gave me 5 commissionable deals in the last 18 months. Okay. Now, if you had 20 of those people, that's 75 deals. Okay, at an average of 8,000 apiece, count your money. It's a good system. And all I did was develop 20 people who gave me that many referrals. So the way it works is when you are networking, there's 4 different resources in the room. There's your potential customers. Okay, but we're not really selling in a networking environment. We're developing relationships. So there's customers, there's power partners. These are people who are in your industry, who are in a position to refer you on a regular basis because it makes them look good. Then we have what we call vendors. These are the people that are in the room who sell stuff. They could be selling you things for your business, or they could be selling you lotions and potions. Whatever it is, they're in the room. And then we have the referral resources. These are the one-offs, basically the people who run the events. And they're none of the other three. Once you've decided that I'm talking to a vendor, I have a specific set of questions that I have pre-put together in my networking plan. And what I'm looking for is answers to those questions. And based on the answers that I get, I'm able to basically give a 5-star review to the answer. From that, I can just take 5 questions, divide it by 5, and I can tell you whether or not you're a 3.5 star or you a 4.7 star. And anybody that ranks high enough, those are the people that you should pay attention to. I'm going to go networking. I can't have coffee with everybody, but in 6 months, I'll know who my top 10 draft picks are. And those are the people that I'm going to work on the evolution of a relationship with, which is a 5-stage program. It's very simple. It goes from hello all the way to you're an A-team referral resource. And you go through the sorting process. So you can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't measure what you don't track. And so it's very important that if you're going to network, that you develop a good CRM to manage the contacts that you make. Because, hey, it's time, money, and effort. It's no kid's game. You're out there doing this stuff, and it's more important to track your referral relationships than it is your actual sales. And everybody tracks their sales. They know where they're, yeah. So that's what I do. I basically teach you how to set it up and get focused and develop a proper plan. Listen, we go networking and the food sucks. Okay. So you're not there for the food. And I have lots of friends. I don't need more friends. I'm looking for referral partners. And there's a big difference. I can walk into the room and have a lot of guys I've known for 10 years never gave me a referral. That doesn't mean they're great people. They just belong in somebody else's A-team. Okay. So I'm focused on who it is, and I'm going to do maintenance, care and feeding. I'm going to support the people that I know. I'm still going to keep my friends, but I also am very clear on who it is I get my money from.
I love it. I love that you can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't measure what you don't track. Right? That's awesome. I love that.
I learned that in the call center industry. Obviously, we're trying to get a total number, what we call SPH, sale per hour, or appointment per hour, or lead per hour. And so you have a ratio, and everything is tracked. Every phone call is tracked. Was it a yes or a no? What is your yes no ratios?
Yeah, that's super powerful. That's super powerful. Appreciate you sharing that.
Problems. I will add this. I've been teaching the dream for 10 years, and I've put over 2,000 people through it. And, some people keep coming back. They've been there many, many times. It's the same class. Absolutely. If they want to attend the class, they're more than welcome. It's free. I don't charge for anything I do. That's the laws of reciprocity.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Let's turn our attention a little bit more to your origin story. We talked a little bit about it, about starting the call center and such, but talk to us about when you started after the call center, when you started your own business. Tell us about your origin story there, about how you got started. What did you do? What did you look like? What was that early time?
When you say you started your own business, let's be clear. The call centers were always mine. I was the design and development firm for the largest network, and I had Discovery Design and Development, I had American Marketing Group, and I had a couple others along the way. Ultimately, we worked our way up to like 2002, and one of the biggest customers during that time was the subprime lending industry, and there was a lot of lead generation coming out of Orange County. Okay, people down there were buying the leads, and they were calling 50 states and selling loans, and rates were at 9.25%, and they were coming down. And as they came down, everybody was refinancing, and so we were calling the entire nation. It wasn't the only project I was working on, but it was one that I was working on. And I had done a tremendous amount of market research for Kaiser Permanente, Midas Muffler, PG&E Electric, the Bell system, back when we had the R-Box, the Bell system before AT&T and Midas or MCI took over and all that. Friends and family. Everybody remembers friends and family. Okay. So the idea is that the industry, I had big customers in banking and mortgage lead development. And what happened in my origin story for where I really broke away from all of that, two things. One was we ran into the do not call list, which is fine. That happened in 2001. But by 2002, I realized that there were clients calling me and saying, hey, these leads suck. And I would go, what do you mean? Well, yeah, my floor is claiming and we're not getting the return on them. And I would fly down there, walk out on the floor. They'd have 100 loan officers on some of these different organizations I worked for. And here my leads are all stuffed in drawers. They've never been called. And I realized that people were looking at whether or not it was worth making an effort after we had set an appointment for them. And that was the day I created the Mortgage Resource Center, which basically we acted as a consumer advocate on behalf of people who had gone through saying yes to wanting a home loan. And I was able to buy data from lendingtree.com and a few other large organizations that I was buying the data 30 days after the fact. Now, what did I know? Half of these people had never been called. So so I was buying the data for a song. I was getting it for 25 cents a record. We called back everybody with an entire market research approach. And the Mortgage Resource Center basically called back people and saying, look, I understand that you may have been trying to get a home loan about 30 days ago. You might have signed something on the internet. You might have gotten an 800 number. I'm not real sure. But we're just trying to determine how did that go for you? And then we would sit and listen. And in 90% of the cases, they hadn't been helped. And so we then retreaded them and put it back out. I did that for 4 years, right up through 2006, where the fall of 2006 is when the Big Short started. So for 4 years, I ran the Mortgage Resource Center with Tracy Rannick, who is now my wife, who is the broker of Frontier Financial. So to say that we've seen every possible thing that could go wrong with a home loan is an understatement. We called over 200, 300,000 people. I had 60 employees on this program, and it was the Glengarry lead of the industry. The lead was so good that they would buy 20. That was all they would allow them to buy, and they would only get one per day, 4 per week. And when that lead came into their office, it was coveted. It was very expensive. The difference was that we told the borrower that we were going to call them back after we gave it to the company that was going to do their loan. We said, you have to allow us to call you back to make sure you're happy with who we selected for you. And we did. We called them all back. Basically, I was making sure these people got help. The lead therefore we got a 40% close rate compared to the standard lendingtree.com, which is a 2% close rate. So
wow.
Oh yeah. It was the simplest thing ever. I had 60 brokers on the program at one point and all over the country. And so it was pretty cool. And yeah, we had all kinds of neat little rules, like you could only buy a 20 pack at a time. Because if you didn't follow through, I wasn't going to let you buy another 20 pack. What's the point? I mean, it's costing you $3,000 to buy a 20 pack. I'm not, we don't have time to waste here. We only want the top people because we're going to make sure these people get helped. And it's because of where they came from. We were retreading people that really needed the help. So anyway, that's my origin story.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And from that, she got licensed and she was actually real estate broker in California. You have to have a real estate broker's license in order to do home loans in California. So we became a broker. And then when we moved to Arizona in 2005, we brought half the company here and she became a broker in the state of Arizona. And we've been Frontier Financial of Arizona ever since. So whatever that is, 20 years now.
That's awesome. So
yeah.
Initial story, just to recap, you were professional, you had a whole department, you were responsible for a whole team, a large team of developing a system for a call center, but then you identified a real shortcoming in the industry and you jumped on it to create a business out of what other people weren't doing.
Absolutely. If you've done enough exit polling programs, market research for people like Kaiser Permanente, they would hire you to call people who had gone through a procedure at the hospital to ask 20 questions. It was a survey to do a quality of life exit poll to determine how they could improve the actual process of the procedure they were doing, right? And so I learned that it's okay to call somebody who's gone through something and ask them, how did that go for you? And so if I have a list of 200,000 people who went to lendingtree.com and I knew damn good and well they hadn't been helped, so it was really easy for me to become a consumer advocate for the industry and recall them and find out.
That's awesome. No, that's
Yeah.
super awesome because sometimes we get so caught up in trying to come up with like the best business opportunity. But when you see an opportunity in front of you, you see something that's not right, and
Right.
you jump you like I mean you jump all in, right? You jump all in on an opportunity because you see it, you've analyzed the data, you know what you're doing, and you just go all in on it, and it pays off because you had enough
Sure.
information.
It's interesting when you say that because there's a number of businesses that are created out of that. I know people who have started entire home improvement programs on move leads.
Mhm.
It's so easy just to call somebody up and ask them, are you moving or doing an occupational transfer in the next 6 to 18? And if they are, well, then there's a whole series of people who want that information. And you didn't have to have a company to go and create. I remember when we were in the Bay Area, of course, in California, you have earthquakes. And there would be companies that would come to me and they would do foundation bolting. In other words, they would bolt the houses to the foundation as a security measure in case there's a shaker. You don't want your house falling off the foundation. Well, I found out that they weren't interested in that. They'd go out there with a clipboard, walk around the house, and they'd do the painting, the roof, the decks. They would do it all. So you can create what you want to once you see the need is there. And so anyway, the Mortgage Resource Center was a lot of fun for the time, but it also gave us a real leg up in understanding the nature of lending. Today, we are educators. We're industry experts and we guide people. And not only do we guide the individuals through the loan process, we guide the industry on how to better help their clients understand what they need to do. And what they need to do is call Frontier Financial and let us handle it.
Nice. I love that. Your track has been, you saw a need, you filled the need successfully, you created an enterprise, and now you're giving back. In these years, you're helping other people, you're training, you're
Right.
teaching, you're giving your knowledge base. You're at a stage of life where now you're kind of like you're giving back to people and helping them in a real positive way.
Yeah, some people call it paying it forward. I find that I created the senior referral network here in Yavapai County, Arizona. We're a petri dish. We have 50% of our population here is at 61 years of age or older. We're either headed for Medicare or we're already on it. So I just took the industry out of the dream training. I have 14 industries in the dream training. I just took the senior industry, which is broken down into every business category, and we created an entire referral network within the community. And it took on a life of its own. I really underestimated the market. It was huge. And so we've done that. And so I work that every quarter. We have an event and it's large, and we give away hometown hero awards for people that make a difference in our community. We look out for each other. And then of course the strategic networking partners, where I've created a place for people to meet weekly. And that's all about know, like, and trust. I mean, people will refer people that they're familiar with. You only get familiarity through seeing somebody on a regular basis, and that's what happens there. And
That's
you're
awesome.
familiar with. You're,
Absolutely. You guys have opened your doors to us at Strategic Networking Partners. It's been super great to see entrepreneurs locally come together and help each other. It's a super great group of people that really are interested in helping each other in business. So it's been really encouraging to see. I'm glad it's
yeah.
there. Now, maybe for people that are looking to start their own type of local grassroots entrepreneur or networking groups, how would you recommend somebody maybe start a group like that in their hometowns? Maybe walk us through your process of how you started SN.
Well, my process was pretty simple. I joined a group back in 2011, 2012 called LATIP, which is very similar to BNI. Evan Meisner was actually a LATIP member back in the 70s and 80s before he created BNI, which is probably the biggest networking organization in the world. And so I was in that group when I was introduced to the dream. I recognized in that when I got thrown into that group, Okay. I had nothing. I was not the loan arranger. I didn't have a business card. I had nothing. I walked in. They wanted me to do a 30-second commercial, a 10-minute presentation. They wanted me to give referrals. They wanted me to bring guests. And I didn't know anybody in Phoenix. I had been working, selling tenant in common because we'd just gone through The Big Short. This was 2011. Remember, we had the financial crisis. And so I was up on the fourth floor at Skysong down on Scottsdale Road in a venture capital firm selling 1031 exchanges in fractional ownership in buildings nationwide. So I didn't know anybody locally. And I got thrown into this group, and I went out online and I found a guy that had an email guest inviting process for La Tip. And I just pulled it down. It was a 6.5-minute YouTube video. I figured it all out. So I figured out how to invite people using email. And I actually provide this in the dream training. I put out 20 emails every morning and the phone would ring 2 times. I had 100, it's long story short, I had 180 guests in 6 months into that group. I had a badge down to my belt. I had the most guests. I had the most referrals because you get the referrals because the guests gave referrals to the people in the room, but they weren't members. So you get the referral because they were your guests. Anyway, the thing that was really impressive was at the awards banquet the first year, I won all 5 categories. The one I was the most proud of was dollars in your pocket. I had done 40 grand from the group. Okay.
Wow.
And I had 10 before I went in there because Tracy pushed me into that room because she couldn't do it anymore. She was too busy doing loans. Remember, you can't manage what you don't measure. You can't measure what you don't track. I was doing an assessment in March after the January awards banquet. I was doing an assessment in March on where all the money had come from. And I discovered that I had done triple that amount of revenue from all the people that I had invited to that group that never joined.
Wow.
And yeah, so I'd done about 120 grand. And that was the day I became the professional inviter. I went out and started creating groups just so I could invite people to them. So
Wow.
the answer to your question is find something you're passionate about. I created the holistic referral network. I had E2 structured networking meetings for 4 different industries where we would collaborate once a month. I'd bring them into a room and they'd all get 9 5-minute relationships in 1 hour. I had a system for it. I created the holistic referral network, Wednesday Breakfast Club, strategic networking partners. I went and sat on the board of 5 chambers. It was just like, that's all I did was because I recognized if you help other people by introducing them to groups of people that are in their interest level and help them create a better sphere of influence of themselves, you're going to benefit. Because no matter who brought the person in, who they do business with, when you bring them into the room, they always remember who invited them. And the laws of reciprocity would suggest that somewhere along the lines, they'll repay you. And the rest is history. I mean,
That's
it's
awesome.
like, yeah, our phone just rings and I've got 18 referral resources all over the place.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, that's what I learned. So what I would suggest for people that want to create groups like strategic networking partners, find something that you're passionate about first, possibly something in your industry, and go out and create a network. I've got people that come to my group that have gone out and created separate networks, and I always champion that. It's not competition. It's in addition to, they're creating extracurricular activities for the group that I gather.
That's
So,
awesome. Give first before
yes,
and let the ask come later. Let them come to you and say, what can I do for you?
exactly.
That's powerful. I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about the home of the loan arrangers real quick and give you a couple questions on that. Like, who are you looking for to help with your current business right now with the loan arrangers?
We are educators. And so we like to do lunch and learns. And what happens when I do a lunch and learn is I might have a lunch and learn for the reverse mortgage program, for instance. I might have 30 people in the room. I provide them lunch, they come out and Tracy talks for an hour with, I don't know, 20 or 30 slides. Okay. When we do that, okay, I will get as many as 10 couples in the room who are looking at the opportunity to better understand what it means to get their equity turned into liquid as opposed, you can't take care of the what ifs in life with sticks and bricks. You can sell the house, but then where are you going to live? So the idea here is that we educate them on all of the ways. We go through the legislation, we go through the history, and we go all the way up through the different ways that they can apply the equity in their home. When I do that, there's always at least 10 professionals in the room. Financial planners, realtors, CPAs, those folks are in the room as well. And they're there because their clients need help. And so it's both the financial services industry, the senior services industry, and the real estate industry all have a stake in that educational seminar. And so when you ask, who am I looking for in that, I go back to the dream, that's probably 120 business categories that cross those three industries. Senior services is about 40 different independent business categories, the industry of senior services. Financial planners, our financial services industry, that's the people who open other people's books. Anybody that does that, insurance people and lawyers and all are in that industry. And then we have the real estate and realtor industries as well. So I'm looking for anybody that's in those industries to be able to attend. And we're looking for people that want to gain more knowledge so that they can be a benefit to their client base.
Awesome. And are you national or are you just California, Arizona?
We're licensed in California. We do a few things. We might do 2 loans a year in California, but no, we're predominantly Arizona. I used to be in all 50 states. But again, we're a boutique operation and we've got more than we can say grace over right here in Yavapai County, much less all of Arizona. But we do a lot of loans all over Arizona. So, we got people that are closing this week in Bullhead City and one in Tucson. And so we've basically covered the whole state.
Awesome. Awesome. And a couple minutes left. Talk to me about where you want your company to go and your life to go in the next few years. Like, where do you see your business heading, and then your personal life? Like, what's the future look like for Larry Larsen?
Well, the future for me is fishing. I and for her it's horses. So we have horses, and every morning I get up and I get my equine therapy, which is about an hour's worth of work, and then I have to feed lunch, and of course I have to pay attention to that. If I'm not out at a mixer, then I'm involved in dinner time too. So I'm constantly talking to very spiritual animals. For me, we don't, we're fine. We don't need a lot more than what we already have. And I've done that. My biggest year, I put out 1,100 W-2 forms. There's three employees in our company. There's me, there's her, and then there's Stephanie. And Stephanie is our administrative assistant, and she is golden. And without her, we would have had a lot more challenges than we currently have. And so we really appreciate the work that we're able to do. We have a system. And because we're systems people, we're able to process up to 20 loans a month without any real headache. If we go higher than that, the wheels start to come off and we're not servicing the customers the way we want to. And still, and we don't do that much at this point in time. It's not like we're in a boom time right now, but we're very busy still. And so where do I see it? I see it as in the next 10 years to maintain that sailing is the destination. We just want to have a good living and still be able to do the things that we enjoy. And being able to have the balance in our lives is I think the key. Living to work is something I did when I was in my 30s, and that's not the way it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gorgeous. I love that answer. Let's wrap this up with one more question. What's one piece of advice that you want to give to the next generation of entrepreneurs that has been maybe like a huge life lesson for you and that's helped you and been maybe a center point of your entrepreneur career?
Oh my. Tracking. I got to tell you that you can't manage what you don't measure, and you can't measure what you don't track. I have 52-week cash flow projection charts. It's so amazing when I'm talking to a small business owner and I say, hey, and I've built them for chambers, I've built them for everybody. And it's a tool that was given to me by a guy that used to be with E.F. Hutton. He was a stockbroker, and he gave me this tool, and I've morphed it over and over and over, and I've laid it out for other businesses. And the biggest thing I see is people get emotional about what it is. They get passionate about what they have, but they haven't sat down and even looked at what the fixed costs, the variable costs are. What are the lines of income? What is it going to take me to make payroll on Friday? And the thing is if you have a proper system, you can say, well, what if I do this? And you can apply it and extrapolate it out through the next year. And you can see that you're going to run out of money in October if you do that. And the idea is that for people that are starting out, this is super important. I've saved marriages with the cash flow projection sheet. The last thing you ever want to do is be arguing with your spouse in the line at Fry's when you're trying to buy groceries. You need to have a plan and know where you're going with that plan. And then the second thing is hire professional help. You can't go wrong with being involved with business coaching, good mentorship, be around other people, surround yourself with positive people that are going in a good direction. And if anybody ever wants a 52-week cash flow projection sheet that you finish it up on Friday and you can do you can make sure that all your numbers are where they're supposed to be. People look at it all the time. I'm going to tell you a story. People look at it all the time. They say, well, QuickBooks does that. My bookkeeper could give me that. I get a P&L every month. That's for the financial department. For the CEO, you need a forecasting tool. And the biggest problem we have in small businesses is it's me. And they don't compartmentalize and move over and change their hat to be in that department and have a set of rules for managing that specific part of their business. And again, cash flow projection, tracking, all of those things, along with being around good mentorship is super important if you want to succeed. Believe me, I haven't succeeded in everything I've done. But I learned to discover it early. I could figure it out early on that I wasn't going to succeed and maybe mitigate the damage. I mean, there's no point in failing to the point where you can't get back up again. Yeah. So the only way you're going to know that is if you had some good tools helping you to understand where you're headed.
Absolutely. Super powerful, Larry. Really appreciate your time today. That's a great send off right there. I can't add anything better to finish this episode off, but really appreciate your time and you giving your wisdom and knowledge to the collective interweb.
Oh yeah. No, it's all good.
All
I
right.
appreciate being here and thank you for having me. And if anybody ever needs anything, you've got my contact information. Don't hesitate to share. I'll figure out a way to help.
Absolutely. All this contacts information will be in the description in this video, as well as the dream training and the home of the loan arrangers. So all the best ways to get a contact with Larry is going to be right here in the description. So thanks again. Appreciate you. And everybody have a great day.